Oil is utilized by citizens around the world. It is one of the leading imports and exports. The U.S. government does not directly use oil as an entity itself, but it plays a significant role in overseeing and regulating the oil industry within the country. The government sets energy policies and regulations that impact the production, distribution, and consumption of oil. This includes determining offshore drilling regulations, promoting energy efficiency, and supporting renewable energy sources. The government manages the leasing of federal lands and waters for oil and gas exploration and production. The Bureau of Ocean Energy Management, BOEM, and the Bureau of Land Management, BLM, oversee the leasing process and collect royalties and fees from oil and gas companies operating on federal land. The U.S. government maintains the Strategic Petroleum Reserve, which is a stockpile of crude oil stored in underground salt caverns. It serves as an emergency supply in case of disruptions in oil imports or domestic production. The government establishes environmental regulations, such as emission standards and pollution control measures, that affect the oil industry. Agencies like the Environmental Protection Agency, EPA, enforce these regulations to protect the environment and public health. The government levies taxes on oil production, refining, and consumption. It may also provide subsidies or tax incentives to support certain aspects of the oil industry, such as exploration or research and development. The U.S. government engages in diplomacy and trade negotiations with oil-producing nations and organizations. It seeks to ensure stable oil supplies, promote fair trade practices, and address geopolitical issues related to oil. It's important to note that while the government has influence and regulatory authority over the oil industry, the production, distribution, and consumption of oil are primarily carried out by private companies operating within the framework set by government policies and regulation. If oil companies were forced to pay reparations for the damage caused by fossil fuels to the atmosphere, it would have significant implications. Here are some possible outcomes. Oil companies would likely be required to provide financial compensation to cover the costs associated with mitigating and adapting to climate change. This could involve funding renewable energy projects, supporting climate resilience measures, or contributing to climate change research and development. Enforcing reparations could lead to lengthy legal battles between governments, environmental organizations, and oil companies. It would require establishing clear legal frameworks and determining liability for the damages caused by greenhouse gas emissions. Reparations could accelerate the transition away from fossil fuels. Oil companies may be compelled to diversify their investments and prioritize cleaner energy sources to reduce their future liabilities and comply with regulation. This could lead to increased investment in renewable energy and low-carbon technologies. The financial burden on oil companies could have economic repercussions. It could affect their profitability, stock prices, and potentially lead to job losses in the fossil fuel sector. Conversely, it could create new opportunities in the renewable energy industry, promoting job growth in cleaner sectors. Implementing reparations could require international cooperation and coordination. Governments and international bodies would need to collaborate to establish consistent standards and mechanisms for determining liability and distributing funds. If oil companies pay reparations and shift their investments towards renewable energy, it could result in reduced greenhouse gas emissions and a decrease in the pace of climate change. This could contribute to environmental and public health improvements in the long run. It is important to note that the specific details and consequences of such reparations would depend on the legal frameworks, political will, and international agreements in place. Additionally, any significant changes to the fossil fuel industry and the transition to cleaner energy sources would require careful planning and consideration of potential social and economic impact.